This message is for a very specific group of collective. And this is something very important to discern in any message, but especially a message like this, because this is intended to serve as a confirmational information. This message is for the ones who are either already moving through something very, very intense right now, or are about to and can sense it approaching you intuitively because you are tuned in to your inner self very consciously. And usually for people like you, there is this inner awareness that comes first before anything shows up in your physical reality. And that awareness is also a part of how you know this applies to you, because you can already sense this intense transformation period that is heading towards you, or that you already kind of are in this moment right now. And this message points to that intense transitional phase that you are feeling into right now. This transitional phase is not about to be anything like what you have gone through before. It is something that you are moving through individually, but also as the collective moves as well, which then amplifies the effects of this transition. And you are being called to be aware of all of this at this time, because this transition is going to affect your identity, your direction, your trajectory, and also your internal frameworks and how you relate to the world as well. And this transition, or when transitions usually reach this level and intensity, there's usually guidance that shows up as well, which it tends to show up differently for different people and differently for every phase of transition that we are in, right? So for this specific group at this time that resonates with this message, there is a particular guide coming through to accompany you during this transitional phase. And this guide, or this archetypal energy and consciousness, is making itself known because souls like you at this time and moment require assistance to move through the shifts that might feel very overwhelming or even disorganizing if there is no aligned direction. So this archetypal energy is being represented here right now as Anubis, who is this Egyptian deity, I think also known as Inpu or Anpu. And this does not mean Anubis is the only consciousness that carries this kind of a role as a guide, because there are many deities, gods, energies, and intelligence that function as guides and guardian of thresholds. But for this message specifically, Anubis is coming forward because his role matches what is happening within you right now, within your life right now, on a very precise level, and also for this specific transmission as well. Anubis is this jackal-headed god of funerary rites, and he is the protector of graves and also known for leading souls to the underworld, right? In ancient Kemetic history and mythology, death and transitions between states of life were very deeply revered processes, and they were not avoided or framed as dogma only. And because of this reverence that they had, there were many rituals that were performed as the soul passed on. And Anubis presided over these rites while overseeing each stage of these transitions. And this also included the preservation of the body itself. And the Egyptians believed that the body went with the soul into the Duat, which is their understanding of the underworld. And this belief shaped how seriously these funerary practices were taken. So these preservations through mummification was done with a lot of care, because it was believed for them that if the body was not properly preserved, the soul could wander without stability or form and would be unable to move forward in a very clean way, right? And in a symbolic and theosophical sense, this role is mirrored internally right now for this collective. And Anubis is coming in as a guide while you are evolving and moving through a very deeply transmutative and transformational period that reflects that level of transition on an inner plane. He's functioning as an astral shamanic guide for you right now, and also a psychopomp that he is, meaning he is accompanying you rather than just directing you and just telling you what to do. He is actually there as a guide with you throughout this crossing. So for you right now, he basically works in that same way where he was working with those people that were crossing this plane. He right now is remaining very close to you and close to you as you move through experiences that resemble this internal dying in a metaphorical sense, yet also very real and practical sense, right? Because this obviously includes the ego death, which feels very, very real when that ending of ego-based identities happen, or ending of these old vessels and old structures and all of these internal frameworks are happening. The dying is happening. That feels very heavy and intense. He is here to support you through all of that when you are releasing all that no longer serves you or reflects where you are going. And this is not happening in isolation right now, because it is also a collective transition that is happening right now, which is why this transmission felt very important to be shared today, because there is a collective transition that is very intense that is going on, that you are feeling into as well as you go through your own individual intense transition. Humanity as a whole is moving through a very similar corridor right now, which amplifies every individual experiences. And I know not everyone will describe this the same way or consciously recognize it in the same way, but the effects are there nonetheless. And this is why certain inner shifts feel a lot more heavier for us or more intense than before, because these changes are no longer only our personal thing, but they are deeply connected to the collective movement that is happening right now as well. And as this wheel turns and these transitions unfold, there can be a sense of instability, especially when older frameworks are clearly no longer functional, and also newer ones have not fully taken shape yet in our physical reality. So this is a very uncomfortable space for us to be in. And since the beginning of this decade, this has become increasingly evidential for all of us. And the space between what no longer works and what has not yet settled can feel, like I said earlier, very uncomfortable, also very difficult to remain inside of. And this feeling is not pleasant for the mind whatsoever, because the mind often searches for certainty and direction or even immediate answers, especially during times like this, which can make a person very vulnerable, right? And historically, this is exactly when these threshold guides become the most relevant, because their role becomes more prominent for the collective, as they are not someone who removes the transition itself, but they are there to help and guide and become a company, so this transitional phase for all of us can occur without losing our essential parts or losing our essential parts of the self. And these guides, they are here to support movement through these changes in a way that feels more stabilizing and also more supportive rather than just destructive only. Anubis also carries the symbolism of weighing the heart against the feather, and this is reflecting awareness for us right now during these intense transitional periods when the heart can feel very heavy. But it doesn't automatically mean that you've done something wrong, or that you having compassion and feeling heavy in your heart because of looking at the situation of the world right now is wrong either, but rather knowing there's so much happening in the world and simply hearing about it or staying focused on it for extended periods can naturally create this heaviness in the heart, which again, it's not about being judged for the care that you have, but it definitely means that the heart is responding to what's being taken in. And the issue here, I guess we can say, arises when the attention, or your attention, basically stays locked onto everything unfolding externally, when anger, stress, and constant observation is dominating your inner space. That's when the mind can start to spiral and the heart begins to feel weighed down. And at times like this, returning to lightness requires remembering who you are in relation to what you are witnessing, right? Because there are many situations you are not directly inside of, even though you are aware of them. So just holding awareness as a conscious observer carries a very different impact than absorbing everything emotionally and depleting yourself in the process. And this is where Anubis also becomes important and especially relevant, because his presence protects what is essential as you witness collective clearing without losing yourself inside of it. Rather than draining yourself by staying mentally entangled with every event, there is an option to connect inwardly first, to steady your heart, and then contribute from that place that remains intact within you. And when you recognize that you cannot possibly intervene in every situation directly, your role automatically inside your mind will shift from emotional overload to being a conscious participant in it through the morphogenetic field, by attuning inwardly to the shared field that connects everything. And it would allow that presence of yours to just move through the heart rather than the resistance that you feel. And the impact after that will become even more broader and even more impactful without exhausting yourselves. And at times, practical action is required to help others, yes, but at other times, the collective is moving through deep release, and your role is not to absorb it all, but to remain steady while it is just unfolding, and to be that anchor and that steadiness for them by merely just your presence that you give to them. So know that Anubis is standing with you here as a protector as you do this, and that's something that this transmission is here to remind you of as well, that he is here to ensure that you don't lose yourself while remaining aware of all of these things that are happening. And working with him in this way, whether as an astral guide or a guardian presence, it will support you and the part of you that naturally holds this space for others, as the healer archetype that you embody within you, or the shamanic archetype that you have embodied within you. And on this level, what you do inwardly for the collective also reflects back through you personally, because the microcosm and the wider field of the macrocosm move together during times like these, during passages like these. So I hope all of this makes sense and helps you, as we are all going through such intense and prominent time in the world right now. I know there's a lot of collective shadow purging happening, and there are very uncomfortable things that are coming up to the surface for all of us, which is why this transmission is here to remind you of the protection that you have, and also the guides that are present with you right now to help you and the collective transition into the new phase that we're all anchoring in right now.